So today Moses is continuing to introduce really the law that he's going to remind Israel of. And so we're going to come to a whole load of law very soon. But at this stage, he's reminding them of their history and what's happened. Do you remember we defeated this king and then we defeated this king, both on not in the promised land, but on the east of the Jordan. And we're going to cross into the promised land. They're about to do so, but we defeated these two kings. And just as God helped us with these kings, he's going to help us when Joshua leads and takes you into that land there. And you get a couple of little great glimpses here. One is Moses just really wants to go into the promised land. So he goes up the mountain and he says, "Oh, please, Lord, let me in." And God says, "No, I've had enough. Don't even mention this to me again." And Moses, you can tell, is a little bit annoyed with the people of Israel because he says, "Because of you, God got angry with me." And yet here you see God clearly instructs him, encourage and raise up Joshua. One lesson from that is that God, we always want to be often the person who's really at the center of everything. We want to be the star, the superhero, the leader of it all. Actually, that's not always our call. Sometimes God may use us in that way, but other times one key way that he will use us is to encourage other people and to support other people. So maybe that there are people around you, maybe if you're part of a CU at school, or you're part of a youth group, or you are part of a church in some way, or you're in a university context or at work, where you see that God is using someone for a particular purpose. One way that God can use us is actually to support, encourage and strengthen that person. So how might we do that today? That's one question to wonder about. And the other thing is, although he may not always call us to necessarily play the key leadership role, he does call all of us, just as here Moses clearly states to the whole of the people of Israel, to obedience. And it says in verse 1 of chapter 4, "Follow them," that's the laws, "so that you may live and may go in and take the possession of the land the Lord is giving to you." And that thing of taking possession of the inheritance that God is giving to Israel and following his laws, those two things go together. And in the same way for us as followers of Jesus, taking possession of the things that he's given to us, so the peace that God gives us, the forgiveness that he gives us, the life that he gives us, the joy, the love, all of those things, and obeying him, those two things they're not separate. Now, we can receive God's forgiveness whether we're obeying him or not. I mean, we need it. That's why forgiveness is necessary. But at the same time, to really own those things, for them to become a reality in our lives, we actually need to obey God. Obedience is often underrated as a factor in the Christian life. To obey God's commands, to not deviate from the fact that we're to love him with everything that we have, that we're to love our neighbour as ourselves, that we're to love our enemies, that we're going into all the world to make disciples of the people around us. These things are non-negotiables. And actually, as we do that, we find friendship with God. And as we do that, the things that he was willing to give us freely anyway, they become more ours. We appropriate them for ourselves.